Hello and very warm welcome to my students. Today we are going to discuss the topic of ethical issues in sociolinguistics. That topic is very fascinating because all the time researches are related to society and the linguistics, and here we need to see what kind of ethical issues we can come across so that we can successfully, as researchers, deal with these issues. So we proceed further. In case of introduction to sociolinguistics, we need to talk like sociolinguistics studies the relationship between language and society, exploring how social factors influence language use. So that's the basic purpose of the whole work today, that we're going to talk with reference to the relationship between language and society. When someone studies this, that needs to find out how these two things interact or influence with each other. It's a vast scope. It can be about the language studies, language variations, and multilingualism, or the dialects can be studied under it. It's a very vast field, definitely. It is important as well because understanding linguistic diversity and fostering cultural sensitivity can be happening with this. It means that when this type of research is conducted, it can be conducted in multivariate fields of linguistics, and it would definitely increase the diversity, linguistic diversity, understanding, and fostering of cultural sensitivity that will happen because of this. And so it is very, very important. Same thing can be talked about the ethical issues which are likely to intervene everywhere. For example, the very first thing is about the uh, methodology which is adopted to include the participants in the research. Now, these participants definitely may be willing to do so or maybe not willing to do so. So, that is why the researcher needs to take a special care of the rights of the participants. The second issue can be that of cultural sensitivity. Here, one can, through discussion, through talks and observation, can indulge in stereotyping kind of thing, and that is definitely not good, because if we do so, we indulge in the disruption of linguistic identities of the people. That should not happen at all. So to avoid this also, one may avoid the stereotyping of any type of information of culture because it involves cultural sensitivity. Then same thing is there, the researcher collects a lot of data, and that data is very important, of course. One is required to take care of that data and information in the sense that the protection can be given. And then there could be representation issue as well. Sometimes we represent certain linguistic communities with a bias. That means we unconsciously declare them to be good or better than the other one. In that way, the issue of linguistics representation is possible, and that is to be avoided, of course. So in that way, multiple type of issues occur. Let's deal with them separately. So, informed consent, for example, is the issue number one. Here, we know that participants are involved in the researches, or the persons whom we go to interview, or the persons from whom we get data. These participants must fully understand what the research is about, what kind of goals and objectives the research has, and have they taken part in the research willingly. This thing definitely should be looked upon, and sometimes it is ignored. As a result, ethical issue happens. There are some challenges because certain linguistic barriers may happen, and when we are seeking the consent of someone, it is possible that the person doesn't want to do so, but because of the misunderstanding, we look like or see that the consent has been given. So linguistic barriers must be considered. In the language of that person, he must be fully taught that what kind of participation he needs to have. And same is the case with the multilingual context. We need to ensure that all type of language, all type of things are being explained to the person who participates into it, and so he has given the consent after being informed thoroughly. For example, collecting speech samples from a marginalized community without clear consent. Marginalized people are already marginalized, and they are in trouble most of the time thinking about their identity. If they are not told or given information 100%, or they don't know the information, the ethical issue definitely seems to have occurred. Similarly, the second issue is about cultural sensitivity. We know that researchers must respect cultural and linguistic practices. the individuality of the linguistically researching person can be problematic, and he therefore could enter into a type of disrespect of the culture, and that makes a big issue. So that is why, in order to avoid these challenges, one is required to keep clear mind and not trying to be biased about anything about the cultures of any people. For example, misrepresenting a community use of code switching as poor language skill. That means if a community is there and they are using code switching, and one may say that they are using only because their language practices or skills are of poor quality, this kind of saying definitely creates a bias impression. We may present some of the reasons or some of the things to justify that thing. Otherwise, we cannot create this type of thing that can cause cultural sensitivity issue. And we have the power dynamics also playing a big role in creating issues for the social scientist when he is doing research in sociolinguistic field. For example, researchers often hold more power than the participant, so that is why the participant may be thinking in the terms that what the researcher is saying possibly is right. So he may not be yielding the true type of information, and he may be influenced by the researcher also, and that can cause power dynamic ethical issues. In order to avoid this exploitation, vulnerable communities must be taken care of. Balancing researchers participant relationship is also very much necessary. For example, studying indigenous languages without providing any benefit to the community. When a researcher enters into the people of indigenous times and age, and he therefore goes to discuss their culture or tries to bring forth before the public their culture or the indigenous things at that time, he needs to take care that he may not be forcing them to yield anything which possibly they don't want to yield. And that is why power dynamics are also very important issue of the socio-cultural research. And then comes misrepresentation under bias. This is ensuring accurate and unbiased reporting of finding. When we write our thesis, when we write our report, we need to be totally unbiased and objective. Otherwise, it could be biased as well. And a biased representation is an issue definitely. One can avoid by avoiding oversimplification of complex linguistics phenomena and combating researcher biases as well. For example, portraying certain accents as unintelligent based on personal bias. If somebody is speaking that accent, which is possibly not close to the standard at that time, one may give the idea that one is unintelligent. This type of labeling definitely cause the misrepresentation and the bias of ethical issues. That should not happen when we are conducting research in sociolinguistic field. There are some other issues which are with reference to the intellectual property right. For example, we have to recognize if something is being taken from someone whose words, whose ideas are being taken. We must be very much ready to refer to that, to recognize that, and publish the recognition as well. And if we don't, definitely we are committing the issue of intellectual property rights. So the thing is very difficult because avoiding the extraction of linguistic data for personal gain possibly can calm this issue. And similarly, ensuring community ownership of linguistic heritage can also cause this issue. For example, publishing a dictionary of an endangered language without involving the community in decision making would be unjustified. If we do so, definitely we are infringing the intellectual property right of the people of that area. So therefore, whatever belongs to whomever must be particularly taken care of, that it should be recognized, it should be given due credit as well. So these all issues are ethical concerns in sociolinguistics, demand cultural sensitivity, transparency, and fairness. Only then we can avoid these issues of socio-linguistic research, otherwise they are likely to occur. For this purpose, some of the recommendations are possible. Number one, obtain informed consent in a culturally appropriate manner. So the very first point is that one has to seek consent clearly and loudly, that the things are clear. Maintain privacy and confidentiality. To avoid this issue, one has to maintain 100% privacy and protection as well. We need to bring up good relationship with the people or the community on whom we are conducting research. We should try to address biases and ensure accurate representation of the people or the community with whom we are working for our research, right? So in that way, some of the issues possibly may be controllable. Finally, we can say that ethical research promotes mutual respect and understanding in diverse linguistic landscapes. And the reverse will be the same, that if it's not ethical, then definitely it does not promote mutual respect or understanding of the diverse linguistic landscapes as well. So one needs to be careful about these linguistic issues. So here we stop. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you in some next video. If you understand something, get a benefit out of this video, do not fail to hit the subscribe button and the like button. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in some next video.